It was a cold, snowy Wednesday night on 116 at 6:11 p.m. A star was born. Believe it or not. No, but seriously. Okay, so astrology is literally my life. Literalmente mi vida. Yo literally love astrology so much. Yo quiero the vibes. I do not know where I would be without astrology. It seriously has saved my whole entire life. Astrology is literally like my lifeline. Like, I don't know what I would have done had I not discovered the language of astrology. And I'm just going to break down every single, I don't even know where to start. Like, I have no script. Like, I just want to talk about astrology and how I found it and like literally what happened and what it's brought me and just the joy of it, because like there's nothing I'm more passionate about in this whole world than astrology and the constellations and the stars, because it's like less than 1% of the world that practices astrology, and it makes me like low key sick because I'm like, bro, you could be like, living such a better life if you know about astrology. And astrology changed my entire reality times 1 million, and there's nothing I'm more grateful for than the literal stars. So basically, I entered my dark night of the soul in 2021. And if you don't know what the dark night of the soul is, it's the second part of your spiritual awakening where at first, you wake up to reality, your third eye opens at the very beginning, it's all blissful. But then you go through the dark night, which is basically like purging out all of the trauma and getting to the roots of your issues. A lot of people don't even make it out alive of this. And it wasn't just one night, it was 8 or 9 months. I want to say 9 months. It was like, a rebirth of me. And it was the most painful thing I've ever been through. I honestly didn't think I was going to survive it. One day I was on TikTok just scrolling, and I watched this girl start dissecting a birth chart. And I have no idea what a birth chart is at this point. I'm just seeing her talking about all these planets on this wheel, and she's describing someone's personality. And I was always into psychology. I was always into looking up like Myers-Briggs personality tests, like human design. Like, I was always into learning more about me because I've always felt, again, like super misunderstood, super depressed my whole life. And so I was always desperate for finding more meaning about who I was and why I am the way I am. And so I'm like watching her dissect this chart, and I'm like, oh my God, wait, it requires your birth time and your birthplace. Like, it really stood out to me because I was like, wait, this isn't just about your sons. This is really deep. Like, I wonder if this works. Like, I was just curious and honestly desperate, like, for answers. And it was more of like a survival thing. Cause, like, again, like, I know I talk about it all the time, but I've been very suicidal my entire life. I've always struggled with like suicidal ideation and just dreaming of death. I've always had a desire to die. And so basically, it's like man search for meaning vibes, like woman search for meaning. Like, I just needed to know if it was true or if it worked. And so, what's so funny about all of this is when I look back at my apartment and where I lived at the time, all of the streets leading up to where you turn into my apartment complex were planets. So, one of them said Jupiter, Venus, stars. Like, they were all like literal planetary names, like moonlight, like all going down the street. It's so weird to think about now, but anyways, so I'm like literally laying on my couch in the darkest apartment ever, trying to understand astrology. And this took me, I want to say, like 3.5 years to figure out fully and be confident in my predictions and predicting things for other people. But at the beginning, I literally would take 3 days off work, and the rest of the 4 days, I would work 12-hour shifts. And on those 3 days that I had off, all I did was take an Adderall, and from sunup to sundown, literally learn astrology for 12 hours straight a day. I committed my life to this because I was so desperate, like, for answers and just like, again, survival. Like, I had to save my own life because no one's coming to save you. Like, you can pray all you want, you can beg people to help you, but no one's coming to help you. And so I had to save myself. The planets in the sky have an effect on our personality and the world. So if you've ever heard people talk about people act crazy on a full moon, or there's a lot of babies born on new moons and full moons, there's a lot of things that happen with the transits. I literally didn't know anything about myself, and astrology was able to teach me exactly every single part of my being, what I need every day to feel alive, what I need emotionally to cope. It showed me what my values were, where I learned all my hard life lessons, exactly where my trauma is located, exactly the wounds that I suffer from. And it explained life to me in a way that I'd never seen it before, that healed me in a way that nothing else could have. I'm gonna cry. Because Like, there's nothing that could have healed me the way that astrology did. I've been able to move forward quicker because I have validation. It's like an external source of validation that shows me that what I'm doing is right. I started just reading my friends' birth charts to them, and I was trying to see if it made sense for them. So I would just be like, hey, does this apply to you? And I was just kind of, trying different things. Then I just started doing readings for absolutely anyone and everyone I came into contact with because I just needed to know. I needed to make more connections. I needed to figure out, like, the deeper meaning behind people. And it allowed me to accept people in a way that I hadn't before, because I always wondered why some people gave me a weird vibe and some people glared at me and some people were mean to me. But then I'd be like, oh, they have these placements. That's why they act like that. Like, I don't have to take it personally because it's their life and it's their birth chart. And so I was able to look at people's birth charts and understand them and be able to cater to them in the way that they needed, because I understand who they are on a different level that they may not even understand themselves. And I guess for me, why I've been so desperate to, or not desperate, but I guess for me, the reason why I love to give readings is because I want people to know that they are understood no matter how different they feel, because I've felt so different my entire life and I would just have craved for someone to understand who I truly am. And like, reading other people's birth chart and helping them heal helps me heal, because since I healed myself, it's healing for me to heal others. Like, that's my purpose. So my predictions started getting crazier. So I've predicted death before. I have predicted people's jobs for them. I've predicted everything that you could probably think of. I've also been able to look into the past, and I've asked people, hey, like, what happened to you during this time? Something crazy ended up happening on this certain day. Astrology is like a cheat code for life, and the transits are different levels that you climb. And I just view life in a completely different way than other people do, because it's just a game. Life is just a fun ass game for me to play, and it's not deep. Emotions aren't real for me. Nothing's real in my life because everything is just planets and stars. Astrology is literally my religion. So Pluto is re-entering the US's second house of finance for the first time since the financial system got started in the 1700s. So this transit has not happened literally in hundreds of years. So I'm excited for us to have a new financial system. Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. That is why we've kind of had like a money hungry society, you could say. Like, I'm glad we're moving forward into more freedom and authenticity. I'm not going to lie, because I am a Capricorn, but do I think that they're the best sign? Absolutely not. Each house has a meaning in astrology, and each sign has a meaning, and each degree has a meaning, and every placement has a section. So I'm going to give an example about something in my chart. So my biggest, I guess, issue in my birth chart that I face every day, my sun sign, which is your ego, it's how you self-identify, it's how you show up in the world, is in my sixth house of day-to-day routines, physical health, and the workplace. Now, this is also conjoining my Venus, which is my values, and it's also conjoining my Chiron, which is my trauma. And I know I've talked about this in past videos, but essentially, all of the degrees are very close together. My sun is at 26 degrees, my Venus is at 27 degrees, and my Chiron is at 30 degrees. When the sun is cazimied with Venus and Chiron, or any planets, it is intense. It is not only intense because it's a cazimi, it's a combustion. A combustion means any planets less than 10 degrees apart. So my sun and my ego is burning out my Venus and Chiron. It's completely obliterating them. If I am not operating fully in my values and who I am, I feel like I'm dying, because wherever your sun is in your birth chart, without having whatever that thing is, you feel like you're dying, because your ego is your survival, right? It's your sun. And so whenever I didn't have a job, for example, or whenever I wasn't feeling productive, I just felt like I was dying. So in between job transitions was always extremely hard for me in my life, because I have to have something to do. Like, I have to have a task to do. Like, I can't just chill out. It's not possible for me to chill out. If I don't have a job, I'm doing something. I'm either learning, I'm watching videos, I'm taking notes. Like, I can't stop working, because if I stop working, it literally feels like death. Another thing in my birth chart that I struggle with, or another intense part of my birth chart, is my Leo rising. Obviously, that is who I am. A Leo is the sun. It is represented by the ego. And that is why I am always in everyone's face so intensely, because it's at 4 degrees. That is a very intense degree because it's almost by the 5th degree, which is the Leo degree. I am just flamboyant and I can't help myself. Like, it's just how I show up. Your rising sign is also literally your coping, it's your survival, it's how you show up in the world to protect yourself. And it's just, I can't help but be a Leo. Like, I just can't. Like, it's just a part of me, you know? My Jupiter placement. Oh my God, I need to go off about this. This is why I'm so spiritual. So, my Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. And exaltation is basically like royally uplifted at the highest it can be. Jupiter is the planet of expansion and good luck. I don't believe in luck. We've covered this. But expansion isn't always good. Expansion can be hard. And the 12th house is mental health, it's the unconscious, it's literally the stuff that you suppress. So with Jupiter there, it is good luck, but it also means I've had to expand that area and it's been very painful. 12th house placements are pretty rare. Not a lot of people have them. That explains why my mind is so. I didn't choose this life, the stars did. That's what I like to say. The way I predict things, basically, this is just like a cute little crash course, a little astrological crash course, is I look up the transits coming up. And you basically have to overlay the transits with your chart. So I'll give an example with the eclipses right now. Our eclipse cycles are in Aries and Libra, the north and south node. And with it being in Aries, that is falling over my ninth house of religion, philosophy, higher education, travel, and beliefs, basically. So, oh, it's also publishing. So that's why I'm like doing what I'm doing now, because the north node's in Aries. And then my south node is in my third house of thinking and communication. So basically, that's kind of an area I've refined and I need to let go of overthinking how I'm communicating. And I just need to lean more towards speaking and publishing and broadcasting and, you know what I mean? Like talking about like spirituality and stuff. And I need to let go of like over analyzing how I'm saying things, because that's something I always overthink is like, am I saying the right thing? Am I like making someone mad, you know, type of thing? Saturn is in my eighth house. So, eighth house is trauma, it's death, it's rebirth, it's psychology, it's shared resources and finance. Saturn here is probably one of the worst literal things you can go through. Like, Saturn has literally raped me. Like, Saturn has put me actually through it. This is probably the hardest year I've ever experienced in my entire life ever. But I have to thank Saturn, because Saturn is the planet of hard life lessons, but it also brings great rewards if you go through the lesson, you know, like it's father karma, it's daddy vibes. I will say I don't condone blaming your life on the stars. That's something dangerous I did for about like for 2 years. I blamed all of my problems on the stars. So instead of taking accountability and healing myself, I would say, oh no, I'm feeling sad because, you know, the moon's in Pisces today, instead of actually doing the inner work. And that's something that actually kind of prolonged my suffering. So I don't think that astrology is good for blaming your life on the stars, but it's kind of just validation. I think it should be used for validation only and for learning more about yourself. The thing about astrology is that there's a higher and lower octave of every single placement. So, for example, a higher octave of a Leo rising is someone who is nice, charismatic, being out there, just, you know, loving people. Leo is also ruled by the heart, so it's love. And the lower octave of Leo is someone shy and kind of reserved. So Leo risings are a little bit hard to spot out because they're either extremely shy and just want to put their head down and they don't want anyone to be perceived, because Leo again is ruled by the sun, which is the ego. So your ego is either really fragile and you're living in fear, or you're living in love. And I've experienced both of those octaves in my life. You don't have to stay in the lower octave of your placement, and it's really important to actually do the inner work and the healing. Astrology is just a tool to help you get there, but it's not something you should like rely on for your journey of healing, because again, like, it actually kept me stuck for a long time. So just be aware of that if you are looking into your birth chart, if you are trying to learn more about yourself. I think astrology is like the recipe to world peace, because that's when I stopped hating people and stopped blaming people for their actions, because I was like, wait, we're all just like literally messed up people, you know, like we're all just like so complex and have like different placements and why we were born, and we're all different for a reason. Like, that made me stop comparing myself to other people and like literally accepting myself fully and stopping like, why do they have this life, why do they have this life? It's like, it's in the stars, that's why. You know, you can actually make decisions based on the planetary energies and it will serve you better in your life, and you can live a more fruitful, beautiful life. So with all that being said, use the stars instead.